When people talk about success, they often speak as if it is a quiet elevator meant to carry anyone upward with the press of a button. But life, with its odd sense of humor, rarely installs elevators in the buildings that matter. Instead, it leaves behind long staircases with broken railings and flickering lights. My story begins on one such staircase, and at the bottom of it stood a boy named Aaron, thin as a pencil, determined as a storm, and living in a village where opportunity arrived only in rumors yet left before anyone could greet it. Aaron grew up in a place where hardship was a daily guest, one that never knocked before entering. His father had once worked at a factory in the nearby town, but an accident had taken his strength and replaced it with a limp that carried pain with every step. His mother stitched clothes for villagers, earning just enough to keep their lanterns lit at night. Aaron had siblings too, two younger sisters whose laughter still sparkled despite the cracks in the walls of their small home. It was a house where dreams had to squeeze tightly to fit inside, yet Aaron tried to keep his dreams spacious that he wanted to study. Not just study, he wanted to excel, to rise high enough so he could someday lift his family along with him. But books cost money, school fees came like tides, and every tide carried something away. Still, Aaron was stubborn in a quiet way. Every morning before sunrise, he would walk miles to the old school with its faded paint and windows that whistled in the wind. The other boys often teased him for wearing torn shoes and carrying a repaired school bag that looked more stitches than fabric. Yet Aaron walked on, the kind of determination that made even the dust whisper in approval. One winter morning, when the sky looked like someone had erased its color entirely, Aaron overheard his parents speaking. The school had announced a new fee cycle, something much higher than before. His mother was trying to stay calm, but her voice shook like a candle flame in a draft. His father sighed deeply, as if the weight of disappointment had found a new place to sit on his shoulders. "We will try," his father said, "but things are hard. We may not have enough this season." Aaron didn't cry or complain. He simply stepped outside into the cold and looked at the mountains rising in the distance, tall and indifferent. He wondered if they too had once been small, faced storms, and endured to become giants. That evening, as the wind played with the brittle branches outside, Aaron made a decision that felt heavier than anything he had carried. He would work, no matter how exhausting, to pay the remaining school fees himself. From the next morning onward, Aaron's days became stitched together like a patchwork cloth, long, uneven, but purposeful. At dawn, he delivered milk for a local dairy owner. At noon, he attended school with the same hungry focus as a traveler in need of water. After school, he helped his mother sew, pressing clothes or threading needles when her vision blurred from fatigue. Sometimes he worked at the village shop, unloading sacks of grain until his arms trembled. He barely slept, but the few hours he managed held a tired satisfaction that no blanket could provide. Some days were particularly rough. There were moments when he felt his body protest, when his mind wanted rest more than it wanted success. There were nights when he fell asleep with his books open and woke with ink marks on his cheek, like the pages had kissed him for his effort. But whenever doubt whispered, he reminded himself why he began: his family, his dreams, the belief that hardship was not the enemy but the sculptor. The months passed, and the school examination approached like a slow-moving comet, inevitable, bright, intimidating. Aaron was exhausted, but exhaustion had become a companion he no longer feared. On the day of the exam, he walked to school with the steady rhythm of a drum inside his chest. The paper was tough, the questions needle-sharp, but Aaron's mind was sharper, honed by months of struggle. When he submitted his paper, he felt an unfamiliar flutter in his chest, something like hope stretched thin but glowing. Days later, the results were announced. Students crowded around the notice board, chattering like birds fighting over a loaf of bread. Aaron squeezed through, his breath tight. When his eyes found his name, he froze. Not only had he passed, he had topped the entire district. The teachers stared at him with shock and admiration, whispering his name like it had suddenly become a legend. But Aaron didn't feel pride, he felt relief, gratitude, and the quiet joy of someone who had climbed a mountain barefoot and finally seen the view from the summit. The news spread through the village faster than monsoon winds. People who had once ignored him now greeted him warmly. Shopkeepers offered him sweets. The principal invited him to a ceremony. But the best moment came when he reached home. His mother's eyes filled like deep wells, and his father, who rarely showed emotion, placed a trembling hand on his shoulder. "You have made us proud," he said, his voice breaking into pieces Aaron knew he would cherish forever, but life, unpredictable as always, decided to test Aaron again. The following year, a severe drought struck the region. Crops failed, water grew scarce, and the villagers struggled like fish on dry land. Aaron's father's condition worsened due to the heat and stress. With medical bills rising and work opportunities drying up, Aaron faced a dilemma. He had been offered a scholarship to study in a better school in the town, a chance that could completely transform his future. But his family needed him, urgently, desperately. For nights, he lay awake listening to the thin sound of the wind scraping against the roof, torn between two responsibilities that both held his heart. He wanted to help his family survive the present, but he also knew that abandoning his education would trap all of them in the same cycle of hardship again. One evening, as he sat outside under a sky sprinkled with stars, his mother joined him. Her hands rested gently on his, warm despite their calluses. "You must go," she said softly. "Your father and I struggled so that you could go further than us. Hardship is part of our lives, but it should not be the end of your story. If you succeed, we all rise. If you stay for us now, we will be grateful, but we will never forgive ourselves for stopping your dreams." Her words felt like a door unlocking inside him. The next morning, Aaron accepted the scholarship and prepared to leave for the town school. His father handed him a small pouch containing their family's savings, meager, but given with love so deep it felt like treasure. Aaron promised them he would return stronger, capable of building a life where they would no longer measure hope by the weight of coins. The town school was another world, bigger classrooms, confident students, teachers who challenged him more fiercely than any hardship he had faced before. Aaron felt small, like a sparrow among eagles, but he did not let the feeling shrink him. He studied relentlessly, worked part-time in the evenings, and absorbed every lesson like soil drinking rain after a drought. There were setbacks, of course. His grades dipped once, and he felt panic tighten around him. He struggled to understand a subject and spent nights poring over the pages until dawn turned the sky pale. He missed his family fiercely, especially on difficult days when the city felt too loud and his heart felt too quiet. But hardship, once again, became his teacher, not harsh, but honest. Years passed with the slow patience of seeds turning into trees. Aaron completed school, then earned a full scholarship to a prestigious university. He studied engineering, fueled by the idea of designing machines that could make life easier for people in villages like his own. He graduated with top honors, and companies lined up to recruit him. But Aaron had grown roots in ambition deeper than salary packages. He wanted to build something meaningful. He returned to his village, not as the thin boy with torn shoes, but as a young man carrying the weight and brilliance of years. The villagers welcomed him like a long-awaited monsoon. Aaron began working on water conservation projects, low-cost irrigation systems, and affordable equipment for farmers. His innovations attracted media attention, then national recognition. Awards came, interviews followed, but Aaron treated them like passing clouds, pleasant, but not the sky itself. The true achievement, the one that warmed him like sunlight after winter, was seeing the change in his village: lush fields, hopeful farmers, children attending school without worrying about fees, and his own family living comfortably without choosing between medicine and meals. One evening, as he walked through the village, he saw a young boy sitting outside a small hut, studying under a dim lantern, thin, determined, familiar. Aaron approached him gently and asked what he wanted to become. The boy whispered, "I want to be successful, but life is hard." Aaron smiled, a slow, comforting smile that carried years of storms and victories. "Hardship," he said, "is not here to stop you. It is here to prepare you so that when success finally arrives, you know how to hold it." The lantern flickered between them like a tiny witness to a truth passed down, and in that moment Aaron felt a quiet gratitude, not for success, but for the hardships that had carved him into someone worthy of it. And so the story unfolds into its final understanding. Success is not the glittering prize at the end of an easy road. It is the steady fire forged in the furnace of struggle, shaped by nights when sleep is rare and courage is all you have. Hardship does not take you away from success, it walks with you until you are strong enough to claim it. That is how Aaron learned, and how many still learn, that success with hardship is not just a story, but a truth that grows in the cracks where ordinary souls become extraordinary.